Hello, everybody. Good morning, and thank you for being here. So my name's Austin. I am a former drug addict and alcoholic, and that was actually how I came to know God, and this is the story of that. So towards the end of my addiction, I was about like 22 and a half years old. My life had gotten really bleak and really sad, and I started using heroin and fentanyl and meth and every like really, really hard drug that you can possibly imagine. You know, it was a super sad, bleak life. And, oh, sorry, I'm a little nervous now. Anyway, I had gotten so sad and bleak that I didn't really see a way out of my addiction, and I wanted to kill myself every day. And I was very just lonely and fearful. And thank God that I was never given the opportunity to actually pull the trigger and kill myself. Um, but anyway, there was a night that I was doing heroin with a friend, or quotes around a friend. Anyway, I felt something speak to me that said, hey, if you continue on this path, you're for sure going to die. And so in that moment, I started to cry, and then which wasn't kosher to cry in front of my group of friends. So I got up and skateboarded back to the place that I was staying at the time, and I called my mother. Well, I think I texted, and I was like, "Hey, I really want to get sober this time. Like, I mean it." And for anybody that has been near addiction, like you tend to burn tons of bridges. So, like she didn't believe me. Very fair. I wasn't the most honest person at the time, and so the next day, I called again and I said, look, I'm really ready to get sober this time. If I continue doing what I'm doing, I'm going to die. There is no doubt about that. And so she says that I can come home, and thank you so much for that as well, Dad. That was a life-changing experience that time. So I go to live with my parents again, and I wasn't really familiar that detox was a thing, and I also didn't know that I needed it. But anyway, also thank God that I didn't go to detox, because some of these things might not have happened. I was withdrawing from loads of drugs, and it was really, really bad on my body. I got rapid muscle breakdown. I had to go to the hospital because I was forgetting how to breathe, and like my brain was not working very well. My body was following suit. So we move forward in the story. Where are we at? I'm in the local hospital, Aberdeen, Washington, and I end up having a grand mal seizure, and I am then sent to a hospital in Seattle. And while I'm at this hospital in Seattle, I eventually come to, and I can't walk. My legs don't work because I'd lost so much muscle. Like my body was eating my muscle fibers because I was withdrawing so bad. And this doctor comes in and says, hey, how do you plan on getting sober? And so I looked him dead in the eyes and I said, willpower, baby. And that's not really how that works. That would be cool if it did, but that's not how it works. And so this doctor looks back at me and says, you should probably turn your life over to God. And that was really meaningful in that moment. It meant a lot to me. This was just over like 2 years and 7 months ago. Been sober since then. But anyway, he leaves the room, and I drop down and I hit my knees and I start to pray. And I ask God, I say, hey, God, like, I'll do anything it takes to stay sober. I can't go back to this old life of misery where I want to kill myself all the time. You know, things are really, really miserable and disgusting, and like, I need to change something. So moving forward with that, I was given the option to go to a residential treatment facility in Long Beach, Washington. And at the end of that 30-day stay, that's the standard, they asked if I wanted, or where I wanted to go, and I was like, I'm just going to go back home. What are you talking about? And they said, well, you go back home, you're going to start doing heroin, you're probably going to die. And I was like, okay, all right, we'll skip that. What are my options? And so they said Seattle or Portland, and I felt God guide my life back to Portland. I was not, or towards Portland, and I was not aware that it was God guiding me there. But anyway, so I am now staying at a sober living home in Portland. There we go. Okay, cool. Anyway, I'm staying at a sober living home in Portland, and I start to just live my sober life, walking further and further from God each day, because I had been sober and I thought I was doing it on my own. And I ended up getting into this relationship, and 18 months later, we had this really catastrophic breakup because I had cheated on her, and that drove me back into therapy because things were really sad, really bleak. It was all of the same exact feelings that I had while I was using drugs. I was just sober this time, and it didn't really make sense to me. And through going to therapy, I had realized that one of the gyms I was training at didn't have a culture that I appreciated being around. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel the compassion in the air that you should feel in that type of setting. And so I called a friend who I'd met at residential treatment. Thank you, Ryan, if you're watching. But anyway, I called him and I said, hey, I know you're training at another gym. I'm going to come train over there. And the first day that I'm in there, May 22nd, I run into Officer David Coley, and that is when my life had really started to change for the better. I think I took him down a couple of times. I wrestled for a long time. Sorry, I still love you. But anyway,
You had to get in there that he totally beat me up. That's okay, though. I forgive him.
So anyway, we trade phone numbers at the end of class, and he texts me the following day, May 23rd, and he says, hey, you have good wrestling. We should trade a kickboxing for a wrestling lesson. For those of you that don't know, David's been a lifelong martial artist. He, very good striking. Also, great jiu-jitsu player, just wrestled for a long time. I'm a big boy, so. But anyway, so I come over to DHQ the following week, and we do a kickboxing and a wrestling lesson right back there. And he then invites me to Camp Karatli to come and hang out with the counselors for the weekend. And in my head, I wasn't very open to letting God into my heart. I think, like, dude, that's for dorks. I'm not going out there. No way. Like, that is not for me. But a couple Fridays later, we'd still been continuing to do, like, some kickboxing lessons here and there. I'd seen him at jiu-jitsu class. And I have a Friday off of work, which is very, very rare for me. I work in the restaurant industry. You have to work Fridays. And something tells me, like, hey, you know what? You should probably be nice and go and spend time at Camp Karatli. So I go out there with David, and we have this incredible time. And thank you for all the counselors that are in the front row as well. It was really wonderful, and everybody was so full of compassion and love. And, like, nobody was using drugs or alcohol, which was cool. Like, I hadn't been to a sober party in a very long time, since I was like 12 years old. So it was pretty rad to see, like, all these people just having such a good time without using drugs and alcohol. And they all connected over this one thing, that one thing being God. And so that opened up my heart and my mind a little bit more. And then I started to ask questions to David about God. And one of the most important things that he told me was, hey, why don't you ask God to reveal himself to you? And so moving forward from that day, I started to ask God to reveal himself to me. And I didn't really know how to talk to him, so I was just talking to him like a friend, like, yo, God, it's Austin. I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing here or how I'm supposed to talk to you, but, like, this is how my day's been going, and I would really like to get to know you a little bit better. And it was less informal with that, with maybe some curse words thrown in between because it made me comfortable, but that's how my connection with God started to grow. And after another couple of weeks, David, Sarah, Annalisa, and David's friend from California, we all went out to lunch after a kickboxing lesson, and Sarah and Annalisa had asked if I wanted to go to Anthem. And in that moment, my first reaction was, nope, that's for dorks. I'm not going to adult church camp. I know that I've done some work, but I'm still not going to adult church camp. No way, you can't make me. And a couple seconds later, while we're still sitting there, I'm like, that sounds like a great opportunity. I don't know if I can afford it. And they were like, no worries. We can get you a scholarship, and we'll take care of it. And so now I'm out of options. I'm like, oh, man. All right, fine. I'll go. So we take this 11-hour journey to Santa Cruz, California. We'll say it's somewhere around there. Camp Redwood Glen. Beautiful, beautiful area. And we show up there, and I'm super nervous, and I'm so nervous that I'm nauseous, and, like, I'm still somewhat doubtful of God, and I start to connect with these people. And in my cabin alone, there was 3 other ex-heroin users, and I had this conception of the Christian faith that everybody was so pure, and that I was like this dirty, uncleaned person, and I didn't know if I was going to fit in. Well, that barrier was immediately broken down by meeting Ken Yoshikawa. Thank you so much for being there, being my camp mentor, cabin mentor, excuse me. And just day by day, I start to feel really connected and so close to Christ. And I'm not a singer nor a dancer. And we end up sitting in the front row of, like, every chapel session, and everybody singing and dancing. And I cried the entire time, and that's not always normal for me. And it was so beautiful, and I felt so connected that I intend to go on a mission over the next year. And that was nowhere near where my life was headed prior to coming into contact with God. And I thank David and Sarah Coley so much for just giving me this opportunity to be there and for being in my life. And thank you guys for letting me share.
Wait. Don't go too far. Am I coming through the system on this mic?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me? You know, man, hearing that story moved me, and I hope it moved you. What an incredible and empowering story that Austin has. And it just is amazing to see how God has been working for years and years in Austin's life and guiding him in small ways and big to the point where he is right now. That over this last week, he gave his life to Christ and is committed. And as he said, he is at the point where he says, I want Christ or nothing. And that is a powerful thing for anybody to come to, and it's amazing for him to be at in this moment. And so some of you have heard of a program called Revolution Hawaii, Rev High for short. It's a 1-year missions internship where young people go, they're poured into, they're discipled, they're taught, and then they go out and they are missionaries. They meet the needs of the poor. They interact with the homeless. They share not just the love, but the good news of Jesus Christ with the community. And Austin says, "This is what I want." He's applied, and he's working through that. But there's some fundraising associated with that, and so we do a lot of World Services fundraising, but it's rare that we have somebody right in our core that is preparing himself to go out on that kind of a missionary journey and continue his discipleship with Christ. And so we're going to take one more offering in this moment, and we're going to collect these funds and hold on to them and point them or put them into this a fund for Austin's missionary trip to Hawaii. And so we're going to pass the plate one more time, and I just want to encourage you to think about just doing what you can to help Austin continue this journey and step out in faith. I had a whole sermon today that you were thankfully not going to have to listen to because these guys did such a great job. But the message was, what is faith? And it was going to be about defining faith and saying, how do we live out our faith? But man, there's not a single thing that I was going to say that was going to do anything nearly as good as what these three, and really every single one of the young adults that are here has taught us by just being here and sharing their story. Faith is assurance in what we cannot see. And they each had a time in which it wasn't sure what was going to be in front of them. It wasn't sure what it is that God had for them. But God said, trust me, step out in faith. Believe that what it is that I have for you is better than what it is you have currently. And they chose faith, as Abraham chose faith before he ever had done anything to deserve it. These amazing people chose faith, even though they had done nothing to deserve it, and received the free gift of grace by that faith. And so we just want to be encouraged and encourage all of them. And so before you leave, make sure you shake the hands of all these young people that just came back from Anthem and just encourage them because they're doing great things. And I just love them, every single one of them. And I love Austin. I'm so glad that he's here with us.